Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Natalie Francisco, and I'm the Associate Editor of Fashion at National Jeweler. I'm pleased to welcome you to the latest episode of My Next Question, National Jeweler and Jeweler of America's co-branded webinar series. Today, Amanda, Gizzi, and I are co-hosting a session on 2025 jewelry trend forecasts. Before we get the webinar started, I wanted to let attendees know that if they have a question, they can type it into Zoom Q&A box, and I'll be back at the end of the discussion to share the questions. Also, today's session is being recorded and will be available on the National Jeweler website later this week. Now I'll hand it over to Amanda to get the discussion started. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Hello.
Welcome everybody to this exciting session. I know trends are always one of those very hot topics and always one that's evolving at rapid speed. So we're delighted today to welcome Francesca Simmons. Francesca is the owner of Francesca Simmons Consulting. So welcome, Francesca.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Of course, we're delighted to have you. When I was thinking about who we could talk trends with, you were the first that came to mind. Tell us a little bit about your company and some of the clients and really how the trends affect your day-to-day business. I know that's one thing that I'm always hearing from you of what trends are coming up from the editor scene. So talk to us a little bit about your business and your clients.
My name is Francesca Simons. I have a consulting company where we specialize and focus primarily on consulting and public relations, 360 on public relations, representing some of the leading top and emerging fine jewelry designers in the market space, from Anita Ko, Suzanne Kalin, Jackie Aish, Rainbow K, Ira, Yvonne Leon, Marie Lichtenberg, and more. So in terms of day-to-day trends, that's something that we spend a lot of time with fashion forecasting, looking at street style, celebrity moments, whether it be red carpet or premieres, to see what those trends are. We then, together, we combine these trends and start to pitch what we're seeing, noticing a lot of, which really helps in terms of securing the best editorial coverage, with trade press, national or digital coverage, focusing on, as a whole, what we're seeing now and what we're seeing in the future in order to secure the best coverage for editorial features.
That's terrific. And Natalie, I know you do a lot of trend coverage for National Jeweler as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about your role with trends?
So I'm the fashion associate editor at National Jeweler. So really, I'm seeing new jewelry every single day, and it's pretty easy to see the upcoming trends that are coming through because it's so many different pieces from all different designers, jewelers, retailers that I'm seeing. So I'm kind of just put the pieces together, and you start to see the similarities.
Yeah, it's amazing when you decide that you're going to start to be mindful of trends happening, whether it's, you know, in jewelry or in your everyday life. It's amazing to see how they can start to come together so quickly and so obviously. In some cases, if you walk through any trade show, you could walk through and within 5 minutes, you can be like, okay, I'm starting to see a theme here. And it's amazing. It's like, do they all get together and talk? Like, how does everybody have this one thing? So talk a little bit about that too, with like what you are seeing, and maybe we could sort of kickstart with a big trend, like a big picture trend, because with trends, I find it so fascinating that there are what we consider like macro trends, big picture, not really. In some worlds, it's like, all right, is that really a trend because it's so big? And then you can drill down and it becomes micro trends where that's all of these little pieces that somehow come together and you find this one trend that makes sense for each business. And trends are very unique to each company. So I always encourage people to not just jump on a trend bandwagon. I know, Francesca, you just had mentioned, you know, all of your clients are so different. So how do you talk about trends when you have companies that are so different as well?
Well, each of the clients that we represent have such a strong brand DNA, where we have some brands that are trend driven and they'll look at runway shows like Brandon Maxwell, Simone Rocha, and so on. And you can really see that trend from those runway shows. And then we have other clients that really make their own trends, have such a strong brand DNA, and don't follow those trends. They are a leader in their own right. As an example, Marie Lichtenberg, who really doesn't follow any trends. She's a trendsetter herself and has never swayed away from that. And she has such a strong brand DNA. But then you have a brand like Rainbow K, who's super heavy on trends, mixed metals, mixed textures, and that is a brand that is, you know, trend driven through and through. So, you know, I think each to their own, and always just sticking to their own brand DNA themselves and not swaying away. And I think trends don't always, you know, that doesn't always mean that a trend is good quality or good design. And I think sticking true to yourself is the most important part on if you are going to lead or follow a trend.
100%. I can't say enough about staying true to your brand DNA. You know, there are so many ways to incorporate trends, and it's a matter of finding the trend that fits best for your own company's ethos, for sure. Because there's nothing worse than seeing someone try to force something. It's like, ooh, that doesn't really work.
You've gone totally off brand. What's going on?
Exactly. So let's talk about fashion trends. This is both of your like wheelhouse, not fashion trends with clothing, but fashion trends with jewelry. I sort of envision trends a couple different ways. Obviously, there's, you know, the fashion forward trends, but then there are classic trends that we see emerge that aren't trendy, but they are trends in their own right. So something can be a trend without being trendy. But let's talk about your top 3 fashion jewelry trends for 2025 and why you're loving them. If you want to go ahead and start.
Definitely sculptural statement, which we've been seeing, and it's still, you know, here to stay, as I'd like to say. It's from 2024 and it's transitioned to this year. Still really heavy hardware jewelry, solid pieces, whether it be in yellow gold, white gold, or sterling silver. We're still seeing a lot of that geometric jewelry as well, elongated rectangles. Statement pieces are here. I would say the personal feminine jewelry, tiny little stacking bands and tiny little pave huggies is out. That, you know, an ear party is in, but it's more stacked, geometric on the ear party, which really complements that sculptural statement look that I just mentioned. Tons of mixed metals still. Whether it be within the piece or you're wearing multiple, that mixed metal look is definitely strong for 2025. Again, I think customers, editors, stylists across the board are feeling way more confident and comfortable to mix metals, allowing you to really just look, you know, you can just style your entire day-to-day look, throw it all on, and that's the look and that works now. No one's like, that doesn't go. And why have you got yellow? Now that's the look.
Right.
So definitely
Like
make
your necklaces.
throw them all on, you know, more is more. You know, and it's a great way for people to express themselves. I think when you have to wear, or you felt you should wear just solid white, just yellow, you're limited on expression. And I think it's really a great way to sort of jazz up your outfit. So definitely the mixed metals are here to stay, I think, for quite a period of time. Even in terms of wholesale, we're still seeing a tremendous uptick in the requests for mixed metal pieces that we're selling. So the demand is there. And yeah, geometric, bold, hardware jewelry. These are the trends that we're seeing for fashion jewelry and what's happening in
For your sculptural statement pieces, do you see something more in the way of necklaces and bracelets, or is it across the board on all categories?
I would say it's cuffs, it's earrings, definitely rings as well. Those are the 3 top categories, I'd say. On necklaces, I mean, it's still collars, chokers, still got that moment for sure. But I'm seeing more in the earrings, rings category and the cuffs.
Yeah, cuffs are definitely going to be having their moment again. I feel like it's been a minute since we've had a good cuff story.
I'll pitch you one.
Natalie, how about you? What are you seeing for your top three
Well,
trend
the answer is ready. I'll pitch it right out to you after this story. We've got a nice.
jewelry? I love it.
And seeing chunky everywhere. That kind of also goes with the sculptural there and how it's exactly materializing in the pieces. But I just wrote our engagement ring trend story for 2025, and chunky, like outside of just bridal, but in fashion too, is everywhere. So it's a lot of statement pieces, especially rings and cuffs like that. Movement in pieces is another trend that I've been seeing going on. So it's kind of twofold, as in pieces with elements that actually move and pieces that are transformable and can turn into, a brooch that's also a necklace that you can put into a ring. So things like that for movement, kind of just adding a playfulness to pieces while maintaining a sort of classic look. And then another trend that I've been seeing recently is that, well, this isn't hard to even call it a trend, but one of a kind bespoke personalization is becoming more and more popular than before. So it's really pieces, people want pieces that connect with them. And so what I've been seeing a lot of is the storytelling aspect, and people want something that not only shows their persona through a piece of jewelry that they're wearing, but has their story connected with it.
As far as retail is concerned too, those are huge trends for retailers, because the personalization is a big part of their business, and being able to do custom pieces or getting people to feel really connected to the jewelry that they wear. And then movement too, just the idea of having pieces that can be mixed and matched or worn different ways is great for retailers to be able to tell that story. And then chunky, I think they've been begging for years for the dainty engagement ring to finally go away. No more skinny micro bands with these huge, center stones. So the chunky engagement is really exciting. So that kind of takes us into the next trend, which is the classic jewelry. So when we're talking about your everyday jewelry, what trends are we seeing? What trends are you predicting for 2025 to really push us into 2026?
I think a lot of the classic jewelry trends remain classic throughout the years. So it's not so much 2025, this is a classic trend, but we're still seeing huge amount of demand on the tennis necklaces, whether it's wholesale or from editorial or from a celebrity moment. The tennis necklace demand is here to stay. The huggy, not so much just a classic pave huggy, but more of a thicker gold statement huggy. The demand for the gold huggy, yellow gold, white gold, but just a thick statement, good piece, nice and weighty. We're definitely seeing a lot of demand from retailers and again from the editors, writers, and stylists. And one of my favorite classic trends is always the pinky ring, but now it's the statement pinky ring, which I can sport for you.
Love it.
But,
chunky and a pinky ring.
Right, it's both. So I'm really loving that pinky ring trend, whether it be a statement pinky ring or a stacked pinky ring look. I'm seeing it everywhere across the board. Not so much on runway shows as such, but just street style, even just out and about, the pinky ring statement moment is here. I love it. I think it is a classic, and I fully support that one.
And very gender neutral also.
Exactly.
I love it.
And it's just easy to style. It is a staple piece. It's a must-have for your jewelry box. It's an entry piece to your jewelry box. Huggies, tennis necklaces, and a fabulous pinky ring.
So good. Natalie, how about you?
I've been seeing snake motifs everywhere. I call this a classic because snake motifs have been a thing in jewelry for forever, basically. So they're not always going away, but they're definitely always swaying up and down in popularity. And basically this year is the year of the wood snake. So we're destined to see even more of them than we did last year, because that was also a trend prediction for 2024 was snake motifs. So they're here and they're still staying and sticking around. And then another one, which I'd have to agree with you, Francesca, is tennis bracelets, also tennis necklaces, because I've been seeing an uptick in vintage inspired pieces. Specifically, I think Art Deco mostly is the movement everyone looks to. And that's basically like the tennis necklace is what I think of, at least. And those line diamonds. So that I think kind of also, or like along the lines of Art Deco with emerald cuts, pinky rings, being signet rings, things like that. and basically also adding that story with these vintage collectors, whether the pieces are signed or unsigned, they are kind of almost heirlooms coming from the family down the line, and they have their own story already put to them, and you can add on to that. And then I've also been seeing a lot of architecture inspired pieces, which also falls into the lines of Art Deco. So it's a lot of not exactly like motifs of buildings, but inspiration that you wouldn't see until you really look into a piece, which I specifically think of McAdam's Quandra earrings. I don't know if you guys have seen them before at Couture last year. I believe they had them there, but it's inspired by New York City skyscrapers, and it's the elevator buttons with an arrow pointing up and down, one for each side of the earring. So I think of little things like that when I think of architecture inspired pieces.
Yeah, CD Peacock just released a new engagement ring collection too that's based on the Chicago skyline, 'cause they're based in Chicago. That was also like these little subtle hints of for your location. Again, going back to that storytelling too that we talked about before. Those are all terrific and so different from one another, but yet you can clearly see why they are classics and that they are also pieces that people truly live in. Follow-up question about the tennis necklace and tennis bracelets. Are we seeing them just with diamonds, or is the colored tennis necklace and bracelet also, do we see that continuing for 2025? Either of you?
For us, in terms of wholesale and from a press standpoint, it's been diamonds, white diamonds set in white gold or yellow gold, predominantly, less on the colored stones, a lot more neutral.
Yeah.
How about
and also shape-wise, like the emerald and
honestly, mismatch. We see a lot of the mismatch requests, baguettes, pairs as well, across the board.
Okay, good. Same. Natalie, you too?
Same thing for me. I see some colors, especially maybe like a gradient of rainbow sapphires in a certain color, but everyone always wants to stick right back to the white diamonds as well.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as classics goes, you can't get much more classic than that. Gemstone predictions. What Natalie, if we can start with you with gemstones, what are you seeing in the colored space for 2025?
Pearls picking up speed. So classically feminine is this growing trend, but not just as a piece for women. I've been seeing a lot of more masculine leaning pieces using pearls as well. I think mostly to Tiffany & Co. just released like the newest chapter of their collaboration with Pharrell Williams. I believe it's called the Tiffany Titan by Pharrell Williams. And it's pieces that have a certain masculine edge or edginess to them, but it's using Tahitian pearls and rose gold. So it's kind of taking a pearl piece and renewing it for the modern audience is how I'm seeing it. And then I'm also seeing a lot of green tourmaline. It's an earthy color that I think could play well with Pantone's color of the year being mocha mousse. So there's browns, greens, kind of nature inspired pieces all working together. And then this so much isn't exactly a gemstone, but just unique color combinations. So things you wouldn't really think to first, colors that work well once you see it, but you wouldn't think it until you see it.
And Francesca, any colors or gemstones in particular?
I'm fully on board and support what Natalie just said in terms of pearls, unconventional pearls, not your grandmother's pearls, Baroque pearls, you know, across the board. We're seeing a lot more demand for pearls. I just saw on the SAG Awards a lot of pearl moments. So we're seeing pearls. And then I'd say emeralds, which is kind of always the #1 trend in colored stones for us, from a wholesale perspective and an editorial perspective. It's most popular usually on the red carpet as well. It's classic. It's the #1 gemstone for us. It is also my birthstone, so I'm sort of emerald.
Fully on board with that.
Yeah, but yeah, big fan of emeralds. And you know, from a wholesale perspective, when I work with the retailers, predominantly when they're requesting colored stones from us, from the clients that I represent, it is emeralds. Second in line would be rubies, but emeralds #1.
Yeah. I'm also seeing a lot of mint, like minty colors. In Tucson, I saw a lot of people being drawn to the minty shades of green as well. So I think that's also something to keep an eye out for 2025 into 2026. Metals, let's talk about metals. I know Francesca mentioned a lot of white and yellow gold. Is there one metal that you would say is sort of the leader in the clubhouse in the trend space?
For editorial or for wholesale? Because that's two different, completely different.
Great question, and I like either way. Let's talk about both and why they're different.
Well, in terms of editorial, it's for us is definitely still white gold or silver. It's everywhere. The versatility obviously complements both that minimalistic and statement design, making it just a go-to choice from everything. Engagement rings, bold, sculptural, but white gold predominantly is the request that we're receiving day to day. Same with celebrity, they're requesting white. Do you have diamonds set in white or do you have solid white? I can't keep enough white jewelry samples in my office. So from a wholesale perspective,
Yeah,
still yellow. And
yeah,
it's really interesting because what we get pressed on is, of course, not always what we sell to the stores, completely different entities. But from a wholesale perspective, number one is yellow gold still. White has seen an uptake, but it's still yellow is leading, which, you know, great, because I think yellow gold is classic. It looks beautiful with any skin tone. It works, it's warm. Yellow, I think, is here to stay as the number one metal for wholesale for sure. Anything set in yellow works. And nothing on rose gold.
yeah, no.
Nope.
Same.
Yeah.
Natalie, how about you?
I have to agree with the yellow gold is everywhere. And aside from that, two-tone is picking up speed to kind of merge that bridge between people who already own both hues. But yellow gold is the one to go with. And rose gold is nowhere.
Yeah.
And
Rose is tough. I think we've talked about this before, Natalie, when we talked about other things, but rose is one of those metals where it just looks so different depending on the amount of alloys that have been added to it. So the colors never seem to be just quite right. It's harder for skin tone. It's harder to mix and match. I did see a little bit more at the January shows of people including like true tricolor pieces, so not just two-tone but three-tone pieces of yellow gold to sort of make, or of gold to make rose have a little bit of hint to it, but absolutely not seeing that as much. But I do find it fascinating, and I know someone in the questions that were submitted for the webinar talked about geography and how trends take longer or have been coming faster depending on where you live. I've been saying for the past couple of months that it's the return of white metals. Like white metals are making their return because it took so long for yellow to get to some parts of the country. And then New York is sort of having this white moment. Obviously, you're seeing it with editorial. So how long do you think that it's going to take for the white metals to be the go-to metal again at retail? You have a sense of how long that you think that will take?
I think that will take some time, really. The issue sometimes with white gold is obviously some of the retail partners will say, you know, the price difference between white gold and silver, as an example.
Yeah.
There's that difficulty there because of, well, they can just buy it in silver. Why would they buy it in white gold? And vice versa. We've seen a little bit of a challenge on that. White gold's got a way to go still, I think, with the retailers. Even January when I did market, I would say 80% of the orders were yellow, 10% was mixed metal, and then 10% was white. So we're a long way to go on it. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I was happy with the 10% even order. Prior to it was only yellow. So there's movement.
For sure. Someone just commented about platinum and how platinum is doing as a choice for white metals. And I think there's two different questions to be asked there. One is obviously in the engagement and wedding space where platinum lives. And then the other is in fashion. And, you know, do we see platinum at all as being in the trend, as a trend for 2025 and 2026?
My bridal clients, Ashley Zhang, Grace Lee, they definitely receive a lot of bespoke orders, resets requesting platinum. So that I can weigh in on.
Yeah.
So there is demand there. It's predominantly though for bespoke orders and for reset orders.
And I know that Platinum Guild did a big push last year and helping designers get into the platinum space, understanding how to work with the metal, getting their manufacturers on board with working with the metal. So I know that they did a big push last year, and I noticed more and more designers working in platinum outside of just engagement wedding. But I think outside of like the high-end luxury pieces that are naturally set in platinum because the stone's values or the diamonds, it matters to be set in that, it's just set in platinum. I'm not seeing it as a huge trend outside of the engagement and wedding space. Natalie, would you agree?
I would have to agree there too. I don't see platinum really outside of bridal.
Yeah. None of my clients that are non-bridal don't work with platinum.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't see it offered much outside of bridal either.
Yeah, I'd see it in like the high-end pieces. But those are more of what we consider our classics and are part of this like trend conversation anyway. So, okay, so let's talk about shapes. We've talked a little bit about shapes already. But what are we seeing for stone shapes for 2025? There's obviously the engagement question about stone shapes, which we can touch on. But as far as jewelry is concerned, is there a standout shape in your mind or a stone cut that you're like, oh, it's everywhere, I love it, and here's why?
That to me or to Natalie?
Let's start with you, Francesca.
For me, I think it's the pear and the elongated pear. I'm just seeing that's the number one shape that we're seeing. It's a trend, I think, that goes across from bridal, across the board. Most of my clients' new collections have incorporated pears. They are modern, beautiful, and I think this is, the pear is for 2020, 25 for sure. About it. There's a ton of requests for them. Grace Lee has been doing numerous new elongated, beautiful pairs, set in her helix band. It has channel set baguettes. It's really beautiful. And the demand from her private customers all requesting pear shapes. So she's
I think there's nothing prettier for an earring too on a drop, just with that movement.
So to keep up with the demand from her private clients, she's released a whole pear collection.
Wow.
Rainbow K also just released a pear collection in the Prestige collection. Marie Lichtenberg also had just done the ebony scapular pendant with a pear-shaped diamond. So we're really seeing pear throughout. When numerous clients are all working with pear, I'm like, that's a trend right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Get off my clients, but there's 13 of them, 12 of them are working with pairs. So
and it certainly wouldn't have been the case 2 or 3 years ago.
Exactly.
Right. Natalie, how about you?
I have to agree with pear, but to add another shape into here, I'd add emerald for that mix of vintageness to sort of, you could add it with a modern setting and kind of bring it into today's trends. But I've been seeing a lot of elongated cuts, and especially a fancy marquise cut is looking at bridal trends specifically since I believe it was Selena Gomez had it for her recent engagement ring. So a lot of what celebrities are doing, I'm seeing become popular. So marquise and especially old mine. So kind of bringing that vintage cut back.
Can we talk about the celebrity piece for a second? How much are celebrities driving trends today versus 5 years ago? And how important is it for designers and even retailers for that matter to get on board with, certain celebrities and what they're wearing as far as celebrities are concerned? And that kind of takes us into the next question of talking about red carpet and award season. So how much do celebrities play in moving the needle with trends today?
I mean, I think once you have that celebrity in that engagement ring and everyone starts picking up on it, pitching it, and it's going viral, there's the answer. I mean, it's everywhere, and then you want it, and then the sales come in because everyone's demanding for it because it's everywhere and it's drilled in your head digitally and in print and it's on Instagram and it's all over social. And you're like, oh, I really like that. And I keep seeing it. I do think the celebrity factor has a huge, huge push, huge leverage. I mean, if you look at Zoe Kravitz with her Jessica McCormack engagement, I mean, Ashley Zhang, as an example, had a huge uptick afterwards.
Yeah.
Similar styles. Natural Diamond Council did a feature on it, and I think it had a huge play for sure.
Yeah, it's all about the right celebrity too. And I think there are, certain celebrities obviously that move trends and
That's
much faster.
what Natalie had mentioned was that chunky engagement ring. And you look at Dua Lipa with her new engagement ring. And that is a chunky gold band with that huge diamond in the center. And I think that started to go out and we saw an uptake for the bridal. It was that alternative bridal chunky engagement ring. And it's Dua, who's, incredible street style and saw the demand.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about red carpet. Everyone loves this time of year. Everyone's glued to the television to watch, the red carpet coverage and the days that follow to see what trends are going to emerge. So your early favorite trends for jewelry from the red carpet. Let's talk about what some of your favorite looks have been.
I'm gonna go with the recent award because
Yeah.
it's fresh in my mind, which was SAG Awards this past weekend. I was obsessed with the oversized diamond studs. Cynthia Erivo, she wore Bouchier, and Millie Bobby Brown wore Chopard. Killer. For me, that was number one. Loved it. I love an oversized, huge diamond stud. Look beautiful, like cluster on the ear, stunning. That was my favorite trend that I saw.
No one does earrings like Cynthia Erivo.
No, the best ear model.
I know. Absolutely. Every single award show, it's always like Cynthia.
And I did see she had her Susan Callan little diamond huggy in her ear as well, which was great. But definitely that was for me for the SAG Awards, it was the oversized cluster diamond ear look.
Love that. Natalie, how about you?
Is to kind of bring a piece and revive it. I cannot stop thinking about Lady Gaga wearing that Tiffany & Co. necklace to the Grammys earlier this month. So and that was like a pale green tourmaline at the center of its piece with accents of pearls and diamonds on a gold necklace. So it kind of brought this edginess and matched her, I think it was Vivienne Westwood, her dress. So it was a nice new, well, not new, but different look to bring to an award show over a lot of clean white diamonds.
For sure. I'm also loving all of the brooches everywhere. Both male, female, everyone getting on these huge oversized brooches. We're seeing a ton of that. And I've seen it sort of continue from, the big award shows to the small award shows. Coleman Domingo had the huge brooches at the Golden Globes. There's just so many great examples of how brooches can be sexy and cool. So I'm loving that for 2025. And I think retailers across America have cases of vintage brooches and brooches that for years they couldn't sell. So hopefully this will be their cue to start merchandising those in the right way and promoting those in the right way and get some great classic brooches moving. So I'm loving that. Any others that you are living rent free in your head that you love for red carpet that you think are going to translate really well to everyday jewelry?
Demi Moore wore that incredible bib necklace, the yellow gold with diamonds. I believe it was Tiffany.
Yeah.
And that was a magnificent piece. And almost you've got that mixed metal. There was some texture to it as well. I think it was absolutely stunning. Love a fabulous bib necklace.
Yes, there was lots of bib necklaces. Especially a lot of strapless dresses.
Yes.
Getting
That
back
was
to
my favorite bib necklace of all of the bib necklaces. That was the one. And I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
because it incorporated that yellow gold with the diamonds with the texture, I'm like, it's an edgy, cool bib necklace.
Very cool. And it was great to see it on someone so like classic and iconic as Demi Moore also. Like it's just so gorgeous. Okay, so let's talk about colors. Getting back to colors, so Pantone color of the year. I know Natalie, you touched on Mocha Mousse earlier. What do you think that a color such as the color of the year, what it says about what we're going to be seeing in the jewelry space for the coming year? So this year, obviously, it's a very much a neutral. And when it first came out, it's like, I don't love the color. And this is one of those great examples of you don't love something until you see it in a different way. I was like, I can't believe this is the color. And then once I started to see the color gemstones and the pieces of jewelry that fit so beautifully in this. I did a style file on Mocha Mousse and I was flooded with options. I couldn't even pick my top 20 if I tried. But then to also see the pairing, the cross pairings of what goes with that. So what do you think about Mocha Mousse as a color and what it says about additional colors and gemstones?
Well, autumnal neutrals are in. It's
Yeah.
a warm, earthy tone. It's funny because when I saw Mocha Mousse, I was like, I wear black all day, every day. I don't own anything brown. Suddenly, my entire closet is brown leather, brown suede, and I'm all
I
for
love
it.
it.
I think it's, you know, a comforting color. It's sophisticated. I think honestly, the Mocha Mousse and that brownish color looks beautiful paired with black. It just reinforces that rich, versatile, neutral. It really takes center stage. I think it's beautiful. I think it's great. I'm here for it. I've seen now, because of Mocha Mousse coming into play for that Pantone color of the year, I'm now seeing a lot of brown diamonds, which is I was going to touch on. So that's a beautiful new addition to the diamond market. More and more brands working with brown diamonds. But yeah, autumnal neutrals are in. It's a beautiful earthy tone. And I think it's great to see all the ready-to-wear brands now incorporating brown into the collection. So it's looking great. The pairings of the jewelry with the ready-to-wear accessories. I'm all for it. It's warmed up to me, no pun intended.
Love that. Same. Natalie, how about you?
When I see it, I automatically think about the upcoming trend of nature-inspired jewels, that it would lend well to kind of earthy tones, mixed with that connection to nature, a lot of florals, organic movement, can kind of go with greens, like I was saying with the tourmalines before. But I also like how I've been seeing it paired with that warm yellow gold tone. Thinking when I covered Pantone when they first released the color of the year, Buddha Mama had a pair of earrings and I think a bangle as well, where they were using that brown enamel that really matched the color.
Yeah.
And it looked beautiful when I saw it. And then
Yeah, I love
obviously
the brown
champagne
enamel, so
diamonds
gorgeous.
works as well.
For sure. Okay, so now talking about Fashion Week, how much do Fashion Weeks do you think play a part in what we're really going to be seeing with jewelry for the season ahead? So obviously Fashion Week in New York has just concluded. I know at its height, it was all eyes tuned in, but it took a really long time for those trends to make their way to consumers, to ready to wear, to jewelry. The trend cycle was so different. What do you think about Fashion Weeks now? How much should brands be paying attention to what they're seeing on Fashion Week, or is this just another one of those sort of like a red carpet moment where you need to be paying attention somewhat, but the trends will start to show themselves. So Francesca, what do you think about the Fashion Weeks? How closely do you cover them when you're talking about trends?
For editorial, massively.
Yeah.
We study the Fashion Weeks. We look at the street style, we look at the fashion shows. I think it shapes jewelry trends today. I think it sets the stage for what's next. Trends, obviously they evolve, but the industry remains consistent in its approach, drawing inspiration from the showcases to keep jewelry fresh and aligned, but enduring style principles. I think for us, for editorial, I mean, as soon as we're looking at even the daily news and you look at street style of what the girls are, or the guys are attending those shows, what they're wearing to the shows. From start to finish, we study that, and then we start drafting up pictures and getting those out, and that gets pick up. So
Yeah.
it really helps from an editorial perspective to be ahead of those trends, and this is what is to come. Obviously it depends on the brand. If it's, you know, a high jewelry brand, it doesn't pertain, but to the trend driven brands, some of the clients, absolutely.
Mhm. What was your top trend from New York's Fashion Week? Would you say? Do you have a couple?
I mean, the oversized brooches, huge
Love
fan.
them.
I'm not sure I could pull it off.
Oh, you totally can pull it off.
I don't think I could ever pull it off, but I love it. I think editorially and visually it's stunning. I would love to have a huge brooch on like a nice oversized tuxedo jacket.
Yeah.
I unfortunately don't have any clients really that work with brooches, so I'm out of that one. Again, white gold, tons of white gold, silver for the shows. Boho look, fantastic. Obviously, that was great and really complimented Jackie Aish, my client, and Marie Lichtenberg. So some great pictures went out to compliment the shows for that boho look that you know, follows their aesthetic.
Yeah. Love that. Love those trends. And Natalie, how about you?
For me, I see them as kind of a hint of the trends that are coming up soon. Not currently, but they're making their way really slowly. And so just look to those and make a note on how to proceed in the future, but take them with a grain of salt because some of them might not make it all the way to the mainstream popularity before other trends.
Yeah, for sure. I know I love that following week or two just to be able to sit down and go through all the collections and really get a feel for how fashion is going to play a part in how women and men dress. You know, it's one of those exciting moments to see something new happen. You know, it's like, okay, something new is coming, because I think we can get caught up in our day to day and feel like there's nothing new. And then suddenly you're like, oh, wow, this is all right. So we're going to change how we are, what the trends are with fashion, which totally changes how we dress and how we carry ourselves when we wear jewelry too. What's one unexpected trend or one unexpected thing for 2025 that you think will surprise people? Is there a trend that's coming up that you would think would shock people that is going to be a trend? Either of you, I'll take it from either of you.
Natalie, you can go first with this one.
I have one, and I think it's unusual materials. So I'm thinking it as, instead of using a gemstone on the pendant, what comes to mind first is Beck's pebble pendants, where it's the story of going to a lake house as a child and you're collecting pebbles from the lake, but now it's attached to pieces of yellow gold and then with diamonds attached to that. And then you can put it onto a necklace as a pendant, but each piece is uniquely different because it's just a pebble from a lake. And you wouldn't really think of that when you think fine jewelry, but it kind of still goes back to that storytelling aspect of no pieces are the same and you have your own story to it. So I think that's kind of an unusual and unexpected trend that's going to be popping back up. Is to kind of take something that you wouldn't expect to be used in fine jewelry and turn it into a piece.
Someone wore a gold-plated feather as a tie at one of the award shows. I'm trying to remember who that was, but it was literally a 14-karat gold-plated feather, and it was worn as a tie. Interesting.
Maybe it was Alicia Keys. I can't remember. I know what you're talking about. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That was
okay, so I want to leave time for questions because I know that there are a ton of questions that came in. Quickly about two things: technology. How much do you think technology, like 3D printing, for example, how much do you think that those play a role in shaping future jewelry trends? Do you think that it's made trends easier, or do you think that it's just another part of our manufacturing, for example?
I'm not so privy to it. It's something internally the clients handle internally.
Yeah.
So I'm not exposed to that information so much. Natalie, what do you?
Yeah, do you have a sense, Natalie?
It's not going to become a trend itself, but it's going to be just another way that pieces are being made. So especially I've seen there's a new collection, I believe, by Mayvana. Her collection is 3D printed platinum and titanium pieces. So it kind of allows for more intricate details. So I don't think it's going to be its own trend, but it's gonna affect more pieces coming out using these like different technologies.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to think about when we're going back to the platinum conversation is like, how does 3D printing with metals that are typically a little bit different to work with, like how did that all play together? And I don't know the mechanics behind all of that either, so I'll just sort of leave it there for the smarter people than me to figure out. But and then lastly, how can designers and retailers identify which trends are worth investing in and which ones they should pass on? And I know that this is sort of a very hard and individual conversation, but what are the key things that you would advise anybody if one of your brands wants to get on board with a pear shape and it doesn't fit in necessarily, how can they figure out, is this something that they can and should be sort of investing in?
I mean, I've always said this from day one, you don't have to follow a trend to be trendy. Good design doesn't mean that it's a quality piece. Just because the design is great, the quality still has to be there. I think it's all about brand DNA and your USP. I think that's the most important factor. Stay true to yourself. Align the brand with your vision and your values. You can be a trend-driven brand, or you can be a leader or a follower. It's a really tough question. I think it really depends on the designer and where they see themselves. Do they want to be a trendy brand and that's great, or do they want to lead the trends and have their own brand identity completely separate to those trends? And sometimes their collection will fall into those trends. I really think it's up to that designer and their personality and where they see themselves and envision themselves. It's really a personal choice.
Yeah, for sure. I think too, for people to, if you can do the exercise of starting to write down these sort of macro trends, and if you can find a sweet spot where some of the macro trends comes together and it becomes a bigger trend, then you can be like, okay, all of these things sort of make sense. All right, and that's my sweet spot.
If you don't follow trends,
yeah,
that doesn't mean that you won't be incredibly successful as well. And I think there's some misunderstanding on that people think, oh, the trendy brands are the successful brands. Well, it's nothing to do with it. So I just like to make that clear to designers that you don't have to follow a trend to be successful. You can be successful in your own right with your own trends.
Yeah, you can be the driver.
Right, and trends are recycled, as we know, so they're always coming back around anyway. So within your collection, you're likely on trend at some point.
Yeah, for sure. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie. I know that a ton of questions have come in, so I will leave plenty of time for Q&A. So Natalie, I turn it back to you.
So thanks. So that was a great discussion. As a reminder, you can still type questions into the Zoom Q&A box and we'll try to get to as many as possible. So I'm going to get started with some of our questions here. One that I saw from the live Q&A was, what influences trends the most in fine jewelry?
Question. I mean, predominantly it's what you're seeing from runway show, street style. It's a combination of factors. And when you start to fashion forecast and study what's in the marketplace and sort of the transitions and what the demands are from wholesale, what the demands are from your editors who are 3-month lead time, 3 to 4 month working on a 3 to 4 month lead time, you start to gather that information, factor everything in. But it's coming from numerous sources.
Yeah, I always put up a visual when I'm talking about trends. It's literally just all the different bubbles all over the place that somehow come together. Metal prices, we always talk about metal prices, how do metal prices impact and affect jewelry sales. And I mean, truthfully, it's amazing to see, like, gold prices, the higher they went, the more people desired it. It didn't matter that
the designers are still, purchasing more and more gold bars. But
Yeah, it's like it became a visual representation of this is worth something. So it became luxury, it became even the smallest pieces. So, the metal prices are just another factor. It's like what TV shows are going to be coming out that are talking about, is it historical movies or is it red carpet? So there's so many different factors that you sort of have to look at all of it. But as far as like fast moving trends though, those celebrity hits can certainly move the needle really quick.
definitely, we're following them closely.
And then speaking on celebrities, another question we had was, what do you think about the longevity of celebrity or also social media influencer trends? Are they just quick passing fads, or do they stick around and could possibly turn into a macro trend?
I think they're going to stick around. Absolutely. There is longevity in it, which we've seen for the past few years. For sure. That's not going anywhere.
Is the question, what the trends that they're pushing and the trends that they're creating, or do those have longevity, or is it the idea of the influencers and the celebrities having longevity? I think the answer is yes to both anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I believe the question is, how do they affect the longevity? How like long term, if these trends are staying or going?
I think that depends on what the trend, what the individual piece is. I mean, there's something that could be silly and fun and move the needle for a quick second, and then there's something like, stacking yellow and white together that they could create a movement that stays for a really long time. So it just sort of depends on what the trend is also with how long it'll stick around.
Angelina Jolie wore that lip cuff.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Right.
I think the styling was incredible. And she pulled it off, but there wasn't any trend after that. Retailers did not ask me for a lip cuff, and I didn't see so much editorial coverage on a lip cuff moment. So again, it does depend what that trend is. That was a very specific one.
Yeah, that's a good example though. Or like the back necklace,
Love the back necklace moment.
And so much of that is happening again, I feel like too, with the strapless dress.
Yeah, SAG Awards, there was talent wearing a ruby and diamond. Oh, it's magnificent.
Yeah, so pretty.
So another question that we had from before the webinar started was, what are some of the emerging brands and trends for men's jewelry specifically?
Can we mention brooches? I mean, it's accessories, I guess. I mean, some of these diamond brooches it's jewelry. So definitely the diamond brooches, diamonds with pearls brooches, solid yellow gold with diamonds. So mixed metal brooches we're seeing. A lot of white gold, tons of white gold for men.
Rings.
Yeah, rings, thick bands. We just did for the SAG Awards, Kieran Culkin. He wore Suzanne Kalin, the most stunning sapphire and white diamond tennis necklace with the matching bracelet, matching ring, sorry. And again, it was white with blue sapphire, which was different for us. From a celebrity perspective, we don't get that many blue sapphire requests. So that was quite a moment, but again, set in white, not yellow.
And so good. That look was amazing.
Not his award, and I'm like, yes, we got the hand shot.
Love that. Yeah, I think the pearl conversation too, we talked about pearls a little bit for men, keeping that going. I know it's been a couple of years in the making, that trend. I think the Major League Baseball players that were wearing pearl necklaces while they were pitching a couple of years ago has sort of finally started to come to like more a high-end luxe space for the men's market too, is another trend.
I think the men predominantly were wearing white over yellow.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen a shift in men wearing yellow. It used to be always yellow for the gentlemen, and now it's white.
Yeah, same.
I've been seeing personally a lot of men. I think about the Olympic runner who was wearing that almost basically a choker necklace. So I see a trend for men is that these necklaces are shortening in length. So another question I wanted to touch on was trends for high jewelry versus fashion jewelry.
Say that again, sorry.
What are the trends for high jewelry versus fashion, which we've been talking about for most of the time here?
I mean, for high jewelry, I'm seeing a lot of requests, editorially and from a wholesale perspective for the cocktail ring.
Mhm.
A big chunky giant cocktail ring, definitely, for high jewelry. Brooches again for high jewelry. Those are the two predominantly that we're seeing, less on the bracelets. I'm thinking about the categories that we've really seen an uptick. Yes, I would say the cocktail ring has been the biggest for us. Lots of
The
demand,
big collar with a single
drop.
really intense, high, big gemstone, like pear-shaped gemstone in a diamond collar, for example, but like one statement gemstone in the center of a diamond piece, also in the high jewelry space.
We did have some demand for the torque necklace as well. Torque with a gemstone or just a solid torque necklace. That was also another one for high jewelry that we've seen an uptick on.
I've personally been seeing a lot of high jewelry collections come out that are all transformable. So pieces that are becoming other pieces. So I think that's a big trend I've been seeing for high jewelry.
Yeah.
So,
Good one.
yep. Was there anything else we had today? I don't believe there are any more questions.
No, I think that's it.
Yep, I wanted to thank everyone again for joining us today. My next question will return on Thursday, March 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern for What Do We Mean When We Say Recycled Gold? So thanks again for joining us today, and please take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.